The Misunderstood Millionaire, Part 1. Robert Williams fixed his tie one last time before walking into Hampton National Bank. The morning sun reflected off the tall glass building. Robert had started his business from nothing 15 years ago. Now his company made millions and helped hundreds of people find jobs. Today he needed a loan to make his company even bigger. Robert wore his lucky blue suit today. It wasn't fancy or new, but it gave him comfort. His father had told him long ago that a person's work should speak louder than their clothes. The bank lobby was busy with people rushing about. Fancy marble floors shone under bright lights. Robert walked up to the front desk where a young woman sat typing on a computer. "Good morning," Robert said with a smile. "I have a meeting with Mrs. Patricia Baker at 10 o'clock. The woman looked up briefly. Her eyes moved across Robert's simple suit and old briefcase. She frowned slightly. "Do you have an account with us?" she asked in a cool voice. "No. I'm here about a business loan. I run Williams Technology Solutions." "Take a seat over there," she said, pointing to some chairs by the wall. "Someone will come for you." Robert sat down and watched other people come and go. A man in an expensive suit walked in. The same desk woman smiled brightly at him and quickly called someone to help him. 20 minutes passed. Robert checked his watch. His meeting time had come and gone. Finally, a tall woman with blonde hair walked into the lobby. She looked around, her eyes passing over Robert twice before stopping on him with surprise. "Mr. Williams?" she asked with doubt in her voice. "Yes, that's me." Robert stood up and offered his hand. "You must be Mrs. Baker." She shook his hand quickly. "I was expecting someone different. Please follow me to my office." As they walked through the bank, Robert noticed people looking at him with curious eyes. He was used to this. People often judged him by his appearance before knowing who he truly was. Mrs. Baker's office was large with a view of the city. Awards and certificates covered her walls. She sat behind a big desk and opened Robert's file without much interest. "So, you're asking for £2 million for business expansion," she said without looking up. "That's quite a large sum." "Yes," Robert answered calmly. "My company has grown every year for 15 years. We need a bigger building and more equipment to keep up with demand." Mrs. Baker looked at his papers with a doubtful face. "Your numbers look good on paper, but many businesses show big dreams that never come true." "My company isn't new," Robert explained. "We have 300 workers and contracts with major firms across the country." "Then why haven't you asked for funding before now?" she asked with a raised eyebrow. "We grew slowly, using our own money. This expansion is bigger than what we can fund ourselves." Mrs. Baker closed the folder. "We'll review your application, but I should warn you that our approval standards are very strict." Robert noticed she didn't look him in the eyes when she said this. He had seen this behavior many times before. People saw his simple clothes and calm manner and made quick judgments. "Thank you for your time," Robert said as he stood to leave. When he stepped out of her office, Robert saw Mrs. Baker immediately welcome another client with a warm smile and friendly words. This man wore an expensive watch and designer suit. Robert walked out of the bank into the sunshine. He wasn't angry or upset. Life had taught him patience. People often missed seeing others for who they truly were. But truth always found its way to light eventually. The end. The Misunderstood Millionaire, Part 2. 1 week passed since Robert's meeting at Hampton National Bank. He sat in his office looking at the rejection letter. Despite his company's excellent record, the bank said he had not enough backing and experience in the industry to get approved for the loan. Robert placed the letter down on his wooden desk. The office was simple but comfortable. Pictures of his employees at company events lined the walls. Each face reminded him why he worked so hard. His business wasn't just about making money, it was about creating chances for people. His assistant, Mary, knocked on the door. "Your car is ready to take you to the technology conference, Mr. Williams," she said. "Thank you, Mary. Is everything prepared for my talk?" "Yes, sir. All your slides are ready." Robert gathered his papers and headed to the car. The annual technology Leaders Conference was a big event. Important people from all business areas came to learn about new ideas. This year, Robert was the main speaker. The conference hall was huge and filled with people in expensive suits. Robert wore the same blue suit he had worn to the bank. He believed in being himself no matter where he was. Behind the stage, the event organizer, Thomas, greeted him warmly. "Robert, so glad you could make it. Everyone is excited to hear you speak." "I hope I don't disappoint them," Robert said with a smile. "Impossible. Your company's growth story is amazing. From a tiny office with 3 people to one of the country's leading tech firms, people want to know how you did it." Thomas looked at his watch. 5 minutes until you're on. I need to introduce you." Robert waited calmly as Thomas walked onto the stage. He could hear the microphone as Thomas began speaking. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a true success story. Our speaker started with nothing but a good idea and strong values. Now his company, Williams Technology Solutions, helps hundreds of small businesses grow through affordable technology. His products have changed how companies work. Please welcome the brilliant founder and CEO, Robert Williams." The crowd clapped loudly as Robert walked onto the stage. As he looked out at the audience, a familiar face caught his eye. In the 3rd row sat Mrs. Baker from Hampton National Bank. Her mouth was slightly open in surprise. Robert gave his talk, with passion and honesty. He spoke about building a business on trust and fair treatment. He explained how his company had grown by helping others succeed. The audience listened closely to every word. "Success isn't just about making money," Robert said near the end of his talk. "It's about making a difference. Every person deserves a chance to show what they can do." When he finished speaking, everyone stood up and clapped. Many people lined up to meet him and shake his hand. Robert noticed Mrs. Baker standing at the back of the line, looking uncomfortable. When finally it was her turn to speak with him, her face was red with embarrassment. "Mr. Williams, I had no idea you were that Robert Williams," she said quietly. "That I was the CEO of a major technology company?" Robert smiled gently. "It happens." "I feel terrible about our meeting," Mrs. Baker said. "I made judgments that were unfair." "We all make quick judgments sometimes," Robert replied. "What matters is what we do when we realize our mistakes." Mrs. Baker looked at him with new respect in her eyes. "Would you consider meeting with me again? I believe we made a serious error in our evaluation of your loan application." "I would be happy to meet again," Robert said. "Everyone deserves a second chance." As Mrs. Baker walked away, Robert felt no anger toward her. Life had taught him that changing minds was more powerful than winning arguments. Sometimes people needed time to see past their first impressions. His phone rang. It was Mary from the office. "How did your talk go?" she asked. "Very well," Robert answered. "And I think we might have a new chance with Hampton Bank." "That's wonderful news." "Yes," Robert said thoughtfully. "Sometimes rejection is just the beginning of a better story." The end. The Misunderstood Millionaire, Part 3. 2 days after the conference, Robert received a phone call from Mrs. Baker at Hampton National Bank. "Mr. Williams, I would like to meet with you again to discuss your loan application," she said in a much warmer voice than before. "Would tomorrow at 10 o'clock work for you?" "Yes, that would be fine," Robert replied. The next morning, Robert walked into Hampton National Bank again. This time everything was different. The same woman at the front desk smiled brightly at him. "Good morning, Mr. Williams. Mrs. Baker is expecting you. Please follow me." As they walked through the bank, Robert noticed people looking at him with respect now. News of who he really was had clearly spread. Mrs. Baker's office door was wide open. When she saw Robert, she stood up quickly and came around her desk to greet him properly. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Williams. Please, have a seat." Robert sat down across from her desk. A fresh pot of tea sat between them, along with some biscuits on a fancy plate. "I want to start by saying I'm truly sorry," Mrs. Baker began. "After seeing you at the conference, I researched your company more carefully. Your business record is excellent." She opened a new folder on her desk. "I've been thinking a lot about our first meeting. I've looked at your application again with fresh eyes. Your company isn't just successful, it's remarkable. Thank you, Robert said simply. I'd like to offer not just the loan you requested, but a complete banking partnership, Mrs. Baker continued. We could help with all your company's financial needs. Robert looked at her with interest. May I ask what changed your mind? Besides, learning about my company's success. Mrs. Baker was quiet for a moment. She seemed to be thinking carefully about her answer. Your talk at the conference made me think differently, she finally said. You spoke about giving people chances to prove themselves. I realized I hadn't given you that chance. She poured tea for both of them. Banking isn't just about numbers, it's about people. I failed to see you clearly, and that means I've probably missed seeing others too. We all make mistakes, Robert said kindly. What matters is how we learn from them. That's why I've suggested something to our bank president, Mrs. Baker said with new excitement in her voice. We're going to start a program for small business owners who might not look like typical loan applicants. People with great ideas but who might be overlooked. Robert smiled. That sounds like an excellent plan. Would you consider helping us develop this program? Mrs. Baker asked. Your experience would be invaluable. I would be happy to, Robert replied. Everyone deserves a fair chance. They spent the next hour discussing the new loan terms. The bank was offering better conditions than Robert had originally asked for. By the time they finished, they had the beginnings of a strong business relationship. As Robert prepared to leave, Mrs. Baker had one more question. Mr. Williams, I hope you don't mind me asking, but why didn't you correct me during our first meeting? You could have told me about your company's success. Robert thought for a moment. I've learned that telling people who you are isn't as powerful as showing them. True character reveals itself over time. That's a valuable lesson, Mrs. Baker said. As Robert walked out of the bank, he felt hopeful. His company would get the money it needed to grow, but something even more important had happened. His experience might help change how the bank treated others in the future. That evening, Robert sat in his garden at home. He thought about how a rejection had turned into an opportunity. Sometimes life's greatest lessons came from difficult moments. What mattered was keeping an open heart and giving others the chance to change. Sometimes the best things happen when plans fail, Robert said to himself as he watched the sunset. Tomorrow would be a new day, full of possibilities. The end. The Four. Misunderstood Millionaire, Part 4. 3 months after the new agreement with Hampton National Bank, Robert's company was growing quickly. The loan had made it possible to buy a larger building and hire 50 new workers. Robert felt proud watching his dream grow bigger. On this sunny Tuesday morning, Robert had an important meeting. Mrs. Baker was coming to see the new company headquarters. Over the past months, they had worked together on the bank's new program for overlooked business owners. Robert waited in the lobby of his new building. Large windows let in natural light. A sign with Williams Technology Solutions hung proudly on the wall. Workers moved busily around, talking and laughing as they worked. At exactly 10 o'clock, Mrs. Baker arrived. Her face showed real surprise when she saw the beautiful new space. This is wonderful, Robert, she said, looking around. What an amazing change from your old offices. Would you like a tour? Robert asked with a smile. As they walked through the building, Robert introduced Mrs. Baker to his employees. Each person greeted her warmly. Many shared stories about how Robert had given them chances when other companies wouldn't. James there was homeless when I met him, Robert said quietly, nodding toward a man working at a computer. Now he leads our software team. And that woman? Mrs. Baker asked, pointing to an older lady helping a young worker. That's Elizabeth. She was told she was too old to learn new skills. She's now one of our best trainers. Mrs. Baker shook her head in wonder. You don't just run a business, you change lives. They ended the tour in Robert's new office. Unlike most CEO offices, it was modest and welcoming. Pictures of employees covered one wall. A small sign on his desk read, "Judge by character, not appearance." The bank's new program starts next week, Mrs. Baker said as they sat down. 10 small business owners will get their first loans, people who might have been rejected before. That's wonderful news, Robert said. It's all because of you, Mrs. Baker replied. Meeting you changed how I see people. I've been thinking a lot about first impressions and quick judgments. Robert nodded. It's easy to make quick judgments. We all do it. The hard part is being willing to change our minds. The bank president was so impressed with our new program that he wants to make it bigger, Mrs. Baker continued. We're planning to help 50 businesses by the end of the year. That could make a real difference in the community, Robert said. There's something else, Mrs. Baker added. The president would like you to speak at the opening event for the program. Your story would inspire both the loan officers and the business owners. Robert thought for a moment. I would be honored, but on one condition. What's that? Mrs. Baker asked. That we don't focus too much on my success. This should be about the new business owners and their dreams. Mrs. Baker smiled. You're a humble man, Robert. That's rare these days. After Mrs. Baker left, Robert stood by the window looking out at the city. He thought about how life could change so quickly. A few months ago, he had received a rejection letter from the bank. Now he was helping them create new opportunities for others like him. His assistant Mary knocked on the door. The new computers have arrived, Mr. Williams, and the team wanted to know if you'll join them for lunch to celebrate James's birthday. I wouldn't miss it, Robert replied with a smile. As he walked toward the lunchroom, Robert felt truly happy. Success wasn't just about money or big buildings. It was about creating a place where people felt valued. It was about helping others find their own path to success. Tomorrow, the bank would announce its new program. More dreams would have the chance to grow. And it all started because of a misunderstanding that became an opportunity. The end. The Misunderstood Millionaire Part. 6 months after the bank's new program began, Robert stood on a stage looking out at a room full of people. It was the program's first celebration event. 25 new business owners who had received loans sat in the front rows. Behind them were bank workers, reporters, and community leaders. The large hall was decorated with colorful banners that read, Building Dreams Together. Each table had small plants as centerpieces, Robert's idea. The plants represented growth and new beginnings. Mrs. Baker walked to the microphone first. She looked different now, more relaxed and happy in her work. Welcome everyone to our first small business success celebration, she began. 6 months ago, Hampton National Bank started a new journey. We decided to look beyond the usual ways of judging loan applications. We chose to see the person behind the papers. She looked at Robert with respect in her eyes. And we have one man to thank for helping us see differently. Please welcome Mr. Robert Williams. The room filled with warm applause as Robert took his place at the microphone. Thank you all for coming today, Robert said in his calm, clear voice. But I'm not the hero of this story. The real heroes are sitting right here. He pointed to the new business owners. These brave people had the courage to follow their dreams. They walked into banks that had said no many times before. They kept believing in themselves when others didn't. Robert told the story of his first meeting with Mrs. Baker, making the audience laugh with his gentle humor. He didn't speak with anger, but with understanding. We all make quick judgments, he explained. The important thing is to be willing to look again with fresh eyes. After Robert's talk, 5 of the new business owners shared their stories. A woman who started a bakery after losing her job. A young man whose cleaning company now employed 10 people from his neighborhood. An older gentleman who created a gardening service that gave work to retired people. Each story showed the power of one person with a dream and the right support. By the end, many people in the room had tears in their eyes. At the end of the event, the bank president announced big news. The program would grow to help 100 businesses next year, and 5 other banks across the country wanted to start similar programs. As people enjoyed cake and tea afterward, Robert found himself standing next to Mrs. Baker. I never imagined one loan rejection could lead to all this, she said, looking around the room at all the happy faces. Life works in strange ways, Robert replied. Sometimes the best things come from our biggest disappointments. You've changed. Our bank, Mrs. Baker said. You've changed me too. Robert smiled. We changed things together. That's how progress happens. One relationship at a time. Later that evening, Robert visited the newest building his company had bought. It would become a training center for people who wanted to learn technology skills but couldn't afford school. It would be named Second Chance Center. As he walked through the empty rooms, Robert imagined them filled with students learning and growing, people who others might have overlooked, just as he had been overlooked, people who just needed someone to believe in them. Robert thought about the journey that had brought him here, from a small office 15 years ago to a company that helped hundreds of people, from a bank rejection to a partnership that was changing lives. He had learned that success wasn't measured just by money or buildings. True success came from lifting others up along the way, from turning mistakes into opportunities, from seeing the best in people even when they couldn't see it in themselves. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, Robert was grateful for the path that had led him here, a path that proved how one person's willingness to look beyond first impressions could start a wave of change that touched many lives. The end.